I am Andy Teach, host of Andy's Awesome Adventures, and welcome to Rome, Italy. The Roman Colosseum is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world and attracts millions of tourists a year. It was built not only to provide entertainment for the people of Rome, but also to make a statement that the Roman Empire was second to none. Emperors used the Colosseum to entertain the public with free games. Those games were a symbol of prestige and power, and they were a way for an emperor to increase his popularity. The huge amphitheater was built on the site of an artificial lake, part of Emperor Nero's huge park in the center of Rome, which included a nearby giant statue of Nero that was named after the Colossus of Rhodes, hence the eventual name of Colosseum. The Colosseum could accommodate an estimated 50 to 70,000 spectators who entered the building through about 80 numbered entrances, including 2 for the gladiators and 2 for the emperors. There were 110 drinking fountains and 2 restrooms. Above the ground are 4 stories. The first level was for VIPs, emperors, senators, and ambassadors, as well as Vestal virgins. The second level was for teachers, knights, basically wealthy people. The third level was for slaves and the lower class. Many seats were made out of marble. The top level had no seats and was reserved for women. Entrance was free, but tickets were used, made out of pottery shards or small bones. The building measures 617 by 512 feet, or 188 meters by 156 meters, and it reaches a height of more than 159 feet, or 48 meters. The structure was built with marble, and 160 larger-than-life statues adorn the arches on the upper floors. The arena floor is made out of wood and covered with sand. The Colosseum was covered with an enormous awning known as the velarium. This protected the spectators from the sun. It was attached to large poles on top of the Colosseum and anchored to the ground by large ropes. Roman sailors operated it and raised and lowered the awning like sails from a ship. Now, there were several myths that have been perpetuated by Hollywood movies, but according to some historians, many are only partially true or not true at all. Myth number 1. The Colosseum was always known as the Colosseum. Actually, the Colosseum was originally known as the Flavian Amphitheater and was the largest building of the era. Emperor Vespasian, founder of the Flavian dynasty, started construction of the Colosseum in 72 AD. It was completed in 80 AD, the year after Vespasian's death. The Colosseum was financed by the sale from Vespasian's sacking of Jerusalem, and 12 to 20,000 Jewish slaves built it using wooden cranes. Vespasian's son Titus led the celebration, 100-day games that marked the inauguration of the building, where some 9,000 wild animals were slaughtered. Another 11,000 were later killed as part of a 123-day festival held by the Emperor Trajan in the 2nd century AD. Myth number 2. All gladiators were slaves. In fact, not all gladiators were brought to the arena in chains. While most early combatants were conquered peoples and slaves who had committed crimes, grave inscriptions show that by the 1st century AD, the demographics had started to change. Lured by the thrill of battle and the roar of the crowds, scores of free men began voluntarily signing contracts with gladiator schools in the hope of winning glory and prize money. These freelance warriors were often desperate men or ex-soldiers skilled in fighting, but some were upper-class patricians, knights, or even senators, eager to demonstrate their warrior skills. Myth number 3. Gladiators always fought to the death. Hollywood movies and television shows often depict gladiatorial bouts as a bloody free-for-all, but most fights operated under fairly strict rules and regulations. Contests were typically single combat between 2 men of similar size and experience. Referees oversaw the action and probably stopped the fight as soon as one of the participants was seriously wounded. A match could even end in a stalemate if the crowd became bored by a long and drawn-out battle, and in rare cases, both warriors were allowed to leave the arena with honor if they put on an exciting show for the crowd. Furthermore, since gladiators were expensive to house, feed, and train, their promoters didn't want them to be needlessly killed. Trainers may have taught their fighters to wound, not kill, and the combatants may have taken it upon themselves to avoid seriously hurting their fellow gladiators. Nevertheless, the life of a gladiator was usually brutal and short. Most only lived to their mid-20s, and historians have estimated that somewhere between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 bouts left one of its participants dead. Myth number 4. Gladiators were always men. Actually, female slaves were regularly condemned to the arena alongside their male counterparts, but a few of them were free. Historians aren't sure when women first suited up to fight as gladiators, but by the 1st century AD they were a common sight. Myth number 5. Thumbs down meant that the emperor wanted the gladiator to be killed. If a gladiator was seriously wounded or threw down his weapon in defeat, his fate was left in the hands of the spectators. In contests held at the Colosseum, the emperor had the final say in whether the felled warrior lived or died, but rulers and fight organizers often let the people make the decision. Paintings and films often showed the throngs giving a thumbs down gesture when they wanted a disgraced gladiator to be finished off, but this may not be accurate. Some historians think the sign for death may have actually been the thumbs up, while a closed fist with two fingers extended, a thumbs down, or even a waved handkerchief might have signaled mercy. Whatever gesture was used, it was typically accompanied by cries of either "let him go" or "slay him." If the crowd willed it, the victorious gladiator would end the battle by stabbing his opponent between the shoulder blades or through the neck and into the heart. Myth number 6. Gladiators always fought wild animals. The Colosseum and other Roman arenas are often associated with gruesome animal hunts, but it was uncommon for the gladiators to be involved. Tangling with wild beasts was reserved for special classes of warrior who fought deer, ostriches, lions, crocodiles, bears, and even elephants. Animal hunts were typically the opening event at the games. While most animals were merely slaughtered for sport, others were trained to do tricks or even pitted against one another in fights. Wild animals also served as a popular form of execution. Convicted criminals and Christians were often thrown to ravenous dogs, lions, and bears as part of the day's entertainment. In the morning, men fought animals, at noon it was the execution of prisoners, and in the afternoon, man fought man. Myth number 7. Gladiators were seen as uncivilized brutes with no loyalty from the people. In reality, the gladiators won massive fame among the lower classes. Their portraits graced the walls of many public places. Children play with gladiator action figures made out of clay. They were also renowned for their ability to make Roman women swoon. The hypogeum literally means underground and refers to the vast network of rooms, cells, tunnels, and passages under the Colosseum. Below the ground were rooms with mechanical devices and cages containing wild animals. The cages could be hoisted by elevators, enabling the animals to appear in the middle of the arena through trapdoors. Lions, tigers, elephants, and even whales were used. One of the most surprising things to me was that mock naval battles were held at the Colosseum. They flooded the arena and brought in ships to stage these mock battles. The Colosseum saw 4 centuries of active use, until the struggles of the Western Roman Empire and the gradual change in public taste put an end to gladiatorial combats and other large public entertainment by the 6th century AD. Even by that time, the arena had suffered damage due to natural phenomena such as lightning and earthquakes. In fact, in 847 AD, the southern side of the Colosseum was felled by an earthquake. In the centuries to come, the Colosseum was abandoned completely, and the marble was reused for numerous building projects in Rome. Beginning in the 18th century, however, various popes sought to conserve the arena as a sacred Christian site, though it's in fact uncertain whether early Christian martyrs met their fate in the Colosseum, as has been speculated. By the 20th century, a combination of weather, natural disasters, neglect, and vandalism had destroyed nearly 2/3 of the original Colosseum, including all of the arena's marble seats and its decorative elements. Restoration efforts began in the 1990s and proceeded over the years, as the Colosseum continues to be a leading attraction for tourists from all over the world.